Kerr.
Well, at the outset, I should say that I will follow the lead of my colleague Liam Kerr, and I will be voting for this bill at stage 1. But I think Faisal Chowdhury actually hits the nail on the head when he talks about the lack of any consequential strategies that come out of this government. And therein lies my #1 concern about this bill. Because I do believe, despite efforts from SNP speakers to the contrary, that much of what we see in this bill is symbolic. George Adam couldn't name a single thing that pertains to the bill that was going to make any tangible difference in terms of what actually happens. And that really is what matters. So I will be completely upfront in saying I support the foundational principle of the bill, which is about securing the viability of Gaelic. And I would also say, in complimenting the Deputy First Minister, her comments to the committee that are featured in the report of the committee about the importance of Gaelic continuing to be spoken were eloquently put. I support the right and desire of Gaelic speakers to live their lives entirely using the Gaelic language if they want to. But when the Deputy First Minister says that she hopes this bill could achieve that, I think she's being overly optimistic, because I can't see how. So I want to thank my colleagues on the Education, Children and Young People Committee for the report on the bill. I think they get to the nub of many of the issues, and we should all take note of their concerns, not the least of which was the unwillingness of local authorities and public bodies, including the Society of Local Authority Chief Executives and Senior Managers, to actually come and give evidence to the committee. That does absolutely concern me, as it has concerned the members of the committee. Because given the duties that will be placed on these bodies by the bill, it would really have been advantageous to all of us as lawmakers to have heard evidence from them. So what will change if this bill becomes legislation? Well, I don't doubt the good intentions of the Deputy First Minister. I think she knows that I respect her enormously, or indeed the Scottish Government, in producing this bill, which reads, frankly, like any other framework bill that has come before this Parliament in this session, laying obligations on ministers, local authorities and public bodies which won't move the dial one bit. I'm looking for tangible deliverables. I can't see anything in this bill that comes remotely close to a tangible deliverable. I think we have a statute book that we are cramming with more and more framework bills which are nebulous. And we need to get much more specific. There is no need for us as a Parliament to go on producing more and more legislation that adds to the statute book but lies unimplemented, because it's unimplementable. This bill places additional responsibilities, in particular on local authorities, at a time where there are huge pressures on public finances. And we heard Sue Webber for the committee describing the limitations of the financial memorandum. If this SNP government gives local authorities licence to increase council tax in the coming year by double-digit percentages, there will still be a paucity of funding for councils to carry out even the most basic services. I don't think the Deputy First Minister wants a bill to support the Gaelic language to be yet another of those tick-box exercises which her SNP government has become renowned for. Of course.
Deputy First Minister.
I can agree with the member. I don't want this. I think that this issue weighs heavily on my shoulders and indeed on the shoulders of everybody in this room. And I suppose it's just that open invitation again that I've made to his colleagues that in advance of stage 2, the opportunity for amendment to ensure that it does have the confidence of every member.
Stephen Kerr.
And I appreciate not only what the Deputy First Minister says, but where she's coming from. And I think she will find colleagues across this chamber willing to work with her on that basis. Now, I want to say something about the Scots language. Frankly, I'm with Liam Kerr, because I don't believe there is a single Scots language. And I think that the committee report highlights time and time again that there are so many variants and dialects of Scots that to talk about a single Scots language does not reflect any of our real-life experiences. The Scots language is fundamentally an oral tradition, and it's highly localised. So my wife comes from Ayr, and I come from Angus, And we use Scots words and phrases for the same thing that are completely different. We've always enjoyed this aspect of our language. We celebrate it. Of course I will give way to Emma Harper.
My understanding is that Scots was the language of the Parliament in Scotland right up until the 16th century, and then they decided to do it as Latin. It's not an oral tradition. Would you not consider the history and the heritage of the evolution of the Scots language, Mr Kerr?
Stephen Kerr.
Emma Harper, we're not living in the 16th century. We're living in the 21st century, and I'm talking about the experience of the people that live in Scotland today. And the Scots language thrives because it is an oral tradition. It's part of the celebration of our Scottishness, and frankly, it's enjoyable because of that. And the fact that it's an oral tradition really does matter. Emma Harper is shouting at me. She's welcome to interject again if she wishes to.
No, she's not.
I had a look at the Scots language version of the committee's report. And I don't think we're doing ourselves any favours by spending taxpayers' money in creating these documents, which I don't believe for 1 minute people are going to read other, frankly, than to mock. And I don't like that. You can get a pretty clear idea what someone is speaking about when you listen to them speak in their local variant of Scots. But writing it changes its nature, making it, to my mind, a bit laboured and bogus. Let's make sure that we're doing the right things to underpin the take-up of Gaelic and not turning people away from it by imposing it in places where it isn't even a 10th language. We shouldn't be plastering public buildings, signs and vehicles with Gaelic in areas where it was never traditionally spoken. This only creates irritation among the public about their taxes being pointlessly spent. I wish I could, but I can't.
No,
if we're going to take this bill further, I think we will, stages 2 and 3 need to properly refine the bill. If we can't properly define or measure desired outcomes, or be realistic about how it will be funded, we should go back to the drawing board.
Thank you. We now have no time.